Brazen and Bold. Today I have a repeat guest, my good friend, Mr. Chris Sulimay. He runs the Elevated On-Camera Intensive Workshop, and it's something I had the privilege of attending a while back. It's going to be so helpful for our audience to hear a little bit more in depth about what it really is like to show up fully on camera so people can understand what they need to do to be read, to be believable and visible in their brand and on their social media and platforms. This is something that's hard for a lot of us as owners. And this is something that you help people do.
1,000%. You just like hit the nail on the head. I think we thought by 2025, moving towards 2026 quickly, that everybody would be so used to being on video because we have it in our hands all the time and we're so inundated that wow, everybody's just going to have this skill and this comfort level. But the fact is I work with people that are a lot like you, which are business owners. Usually late 30s is about the youngest person I've worked with, well into the 60s. And there's still this massive amount of people that have good things to say, that are capable and competent. They have services that they offer, but they haven't really honed down, number one, talk about them. And then number two, even getting onto camera to begin with. And I think there's a lot of things that hold that back. Fear of keeping up, seeing things move forward quickly. And so, I'm excited about this more and more because the more people I talk to, no matter what exposure they have to, the internet, knowing that we're all on it all the time, there's still way more fear and reservedness, as well as amplify and multiply their branding and message.
Listen, it's so important that we show up on camera or in our brand so we can be magnetic to the people we are trying to attract to work with us. And we might have all these ideas in our head or even in a beautiful brand story, but until we're showing up, it's going to be really hard to get that to translate. And I think for someone like myself in my business and brand, I present for a living. I'm not afraid of that. It's not that I'm afraid. I just don't sit down and carve out the time and focus.
People that really have a good thing and they just haven't figured out how to utilize like video to not elevate, I want to say.
When I'm on here, I don't use social media a whole lot. I didn't grow up with a phone in my hand. I'm elderly. So just trying to figure out how people in this, in my age range, or people who aren't as comfortable or frankly just aren't even good at setting aside the time, how can they make the most of it? I love that you're so passionate about this. And you've got a background, as we discussed, and we had you on the show a little while ago, but you have a background in the salon industry. Tell us a little bit more about that in a brief way, just to catch people up who haven't had a chance to hear your story yet.
Very quickly, I kind of did the whole dream of what it means to be in the salon industry. I braided my first head of hair at 13. I was in the salon by 18. Salon assistant, stylist, owner, multiple salons, and then a partial hair school owner for a little while. That was around 2008, so that went away. We just didn't survive those first couple of years. And then I jumped into the corporate side.
The only thing you're missing is you didn't start a brand. And were you in education? I think, so you've done all of it.
And I was a technical director for Kuhn Hair Cosmetics. I managed education for Living Proof for North America, US and Canada. And then I actually started a YouTube channel for a chain of salons that has been very successful. So it was kind of like I just felt finished. But during the time that I started that YouTube channel, it became clear to me that we had these very talented stylists in this group of 200, Salon 124 group, amazing people that work there. And even these higher level people, and even the young ones, to my surprise, were afraid to showcase themselves on camera. And so I learned a lot from them by just having conversations with these young, talented individuals that were so fearful when you turn the camera towards them. And maybe it was because this old guy was the one holding the camera. It could be that little creep. But the reality is they were really, they didn't want to say, as long as I don't have to talk, as long as I don't have to. And we figured out ways to do things through voiceover and through just filming the hands working and getting B-roll and stuff to make it work. But the fact is some of them could really have multiplied, their personal brands, their images, had they, kind of learned the skills of that and applied some of their creativity to that messaging. And not to say that they didn't, some really did, but definitely not to the potential at scale that I think people could.
Okay, and this is really going to help us articulate this a little bit more in depth or more clearly. How do you tap into who you really are on camera? How do you encourage people? Sure, in a workshop, let's just say someone listening is not going to have access to your workshop. How can you encourage listeners to tap into who they really are, share and showcase more authenticity and connection on camera? How do you do that without being stiff or awkward? Because I feel like a lot of people, they're like, okay, and then they get on camera. I had a team member do a testimonial working on some recruiting for our team, and she did a couple of takes and she's like, darling and amazing. If she just sat and talked to me about how she loves working with my brand as a stylist at my salon, it'd be perfect. And she's like, I don't know if I even sounded like myself. Like, how do you get people to bridge that gap? What pointers do you have?
I guess I should just clarify. I mostly work with people that are experts and feel pretty comfortable on camera as it is. To my surprise, just like you, I was in front of large audiences, big and small, for a long time. And I got dry mouth when the camera turned on in the very beginning. And that was a surprise to me because I was like, oh, I'm used to talking and this and that. But I think there's a natural tendency to edit ourselves because we know we're going to watch it back. And so I think the first thing I would say is just know that that's going to happen in the beginning for most people, unless you're a complete sociopath or, and just have no feelings
That's why
whatsoever.
you're so good on camera, Chris.
Yeah, it could definitely be. Unless you're just void of all feelings, there's going to be some discomfort. And just like anything, there's a learning curve. And it's not important. A couple things, like just because I spend time on making a little bit higher quality video and putting time and energy into the edits doesn't actually mean that's what always outperforms. In fact, it doesn't always outperform. I'm really interested in like documenting your journey and building authority through proof and consistency. And it would be the same thing for whatever your venture is. So for instance, if you're like interested in just entertainment, I had Angela here the other day shooting, and I know who Angela is. For your audience, she works on set as a photographer at Elevate, but she's multi-talented. She's super fun. She's young. She's trying all the things. And she does comedy on one of her Instagram channels, and it's growing, and this whole thing. And she asked me like, what's important for me to do or whatever. And I was like, well, it doesn't really matter. Some people watch comedy. I'm interested in educational content and content that compounds. Either way, whether you're doing comedy, whether you're just taking video clips of your hair and, B-roll clips for in the salon, or whether you're an owner and you're trying to say a few things about your personal brand, practice will always make progress, right? So your content does not need to look or feel professional. It's clearly we watch a ton, probably way more iPhone video at scale than we do professional video. So, don't hold yourself back. There's a couple of tools that you need to start. Your hand and a phone work fine, right? Like holding the phone in front of you. But if you're getting serious about it and you want to say a few things to the camera, having a little iPhone tripod is helpful. Having a spot where you have a little light is helpful. And then mainly just having something that you want to say or communicate. And that's really the basics of like what it takes to get started. There's 15-year-olds, that are, and 13-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 11-year-olds that are going to get way more views than any of my content is ever going to get. I've got a couple of pieces that have gone over 1 million views for people and stuff like that. But the main thing that I do is like pretty serious. It's education. Entertainment's always going to outperform education. That's just kind of the nature of the world and the way our brains work. And education in your specific niche is also going to narrow the focus of who your audience is. So take all that stuff in mind and just give yourself the permission to mess it up and maybe not even like not love it at first. You don't have to love it, at first.
I like that. You talked about how that it can be a little bit awkward getting started, or you might fumble and get dry mouth, unless you're a sociopath, in which case you're going to be amazing. So if you're a one-hit wonder, you've been officially diagnosed by Chris as somebody with sort of big problem here. Sociopath, I think you said. So we're talking about informational or educational, like keeping notes of things. Like, what are the frequently asked questions that someone who would be in your space might be asking when they call on the phone to talk to your concierge or front desk team? What are some behind the scenes things that you can film? So maybe, like you mentioned, it's a little awkward to get on a camera and talk and hold your phone out in front of you and do this. Well, maybe instead have somebody film what you're doing and you can do a voiceover to get started. Just a way to start showing up, right? That's just get started is the point. And film it. It can be as bad as possible. Just do something. Let's talk about some strategies though for brand alignment to make sure that what you're doing on camera is going to match the vibe that someone's going to experience when they start to engage with your brand. In this case, speaking specifically to a salon or beauty professional, how would you recommend people piece that together so that what they're delivering to their audience on camera, whether it's put out there on social media, YouTube, any of those channels, or on their website, that it feels like what they're going to get when they see you in person? How do you recommend people strategize for that? Yeah, again, we're talking specifically about a business that wants to communicate a thing, or an individual that wants to communicate a thing to clients that are coming to see them. We're not talking about viral type content or anything like that.
It's clear right now. I mean, you don't need me to tell you this, but like B-roll content is outperforming like, massively right now with the text overlay. And voice content is doing probably less better than that, unless it's either a little flashy or you make a good camera movement to kind of, hook the person on the way in. But with all that said, now you just have to have some really basic foundational understanding of who you are, what your brand is, what problems you solve, and how you deliver those solutions and what you want to say. And that probably sounded like a mouthful, but it's pretty simple. Like on the most basic level, every business solves a certain problem. Whether you're a coach, consultant, or speaker like I work with, or whether you're a hair salon, or whether you're a Subway shop, it's like we're all solving a certain set of problems. We're not always super clear on those problems. Yesterday, I was on a mastermind with Ryan from Mob, and he had a high-level person on there who clearly is competent at a lot of different things and has written a couple of books and done some things. And I asked her, okay, so what is it you're trying to accomplish right now? And, she was like, oh, that's easy. And then she went on for a while, and she was great, and we had a lot of fun with it. But the point that I was trying to bring out to her is like, now can you narrow that down to like 3 sentences so I understand exactly what it is you do in the shortest amount of time? And it's like, oh, so usually we think, especially for independent business owners, whether that be, a 4-salon chain or an independent self-employed stylist that works in a suite, usually we think very highly of ourselves and our business because we should feel proud about that. But we think of it in terms that are too big for a person to process in the type of short form content that people are watching nowadays. Now, if you're doing something longer form, which I'm, more interested in, that's a different thing. But if you can just understand that the only thing that makes a video successful is that it did the thing that you wanted it to do, then start there and then ask yourself, what do I want this thing to do? Yesterday, I was gathering, I've got a bunch of videos pre-made, and I started to go to schedule one for yesterday. I kind of like was building my content calendar, and I was like, what? Maybe I want to put something out today. And I started to go to write, and I was like, you know what, Chris, why are you doing this right now? Like, you don't have anything lined up. You don't have anything to say right now about this. Like, go back to your plan. And so I might have posted like something yesterday about preparing for the mastermind, but nothing that had any kind of impact around, Elevate or the brand that I wanted to put out, because it wasn't time. So know what you want to say, know who you want to say it to, and just consider how they might watch it. Because if they're going to watch it on YouTube, right, which is a long form, very acceptable for long form, people are going to hear you out a little bit. You only really have to hook them for that first minute or two and kind of to start to build that momentum. It's much different than if you're going to post something somewhere that, you only need that person's attention for a very short period of time, and you want to make impact fast.
Half a second. Or I'm just scrolling through and I'm not stopping. Half a second, right?
Yeah. And then just know that like a beautiful piece of text can go a long way in stopping a thumb, if that's what you're trying to do. And you guys doing that with Spark and the clients that you're helping. And it's just a fact. And I even had to cave to that because, when I was a speaker, I was like, I'm not going to say what I need to say in a 1-minute period of time. Like, I got a lot to say. And now I've just learned that, like, I can't swim against the ocean.
The trends are going to take you, whether or not you want to join them, kicking and screaming. Yeah. So if we can become adaptable and we can consider where the content we're creating is being consumed, we'll be able to articulate more effectively and grab the attention of that audience. I know when I did your workshop last year, I can't remember. When was it? Yeah,
earlier this year, but it does feel like it's been a crazy amount of time.
7 years ago, I did a workshop with you, and maybe it was only 2 weeks, maybe it was 18 years. I don't actually know.
February. It was a couple months ago, but it feels like a long.
When I did this workshop with you, my team at Spark had been saying, Heather, get on camera. Heather, here's some prompts. Heather, we've given you an outline of a reel to do. And heaven forbid it involved a stupid dance or something for TikTok. By the way, I like to dance and be stupid, but I was like, I'm not going to do that. And by the time I had time to think about it, like my retainer was in, my headgear was in at night. And I was like, my face is washed off and my kids are all over the place. So basically I was never doing it. I was never doing it. And then I heard about your workshop and you were so gracious to let me jump in pretty last minute. And I was encouraged by a few friends. We could even call it peer pressured. And I'm so glad I did it. It was very transformational for me because you walked me through an exercise that you do unique for your workshop, which this is just a little secret sauce, everybody. I went through this whole process with Chris, so I can speak with personal experience. He gave me multiple questionnaires and things to fill out that prompted those questions of what impact do you want to have? Who are you talking to? How do you want them to hear you? What do you need them to know about your brand? What questions are they going to be asking? And I was like, dang, you asked me the same type of question and you warned me that you'd be asking me the same type of question in multiple different ways. And to hang with you, you said, this is a process. There's a point. But you got me so used to delivering from 400 different angles what it was I was trying to say, who I was trying to help, who I was trying to reach, what problem I was trying to solve. You asked it all different directions. It got me very fluent in that as I prepared in a little bit too short of amount of time to join you and your team to film. But by the time I got there and got on set, man, it was like I had some ready to go answers. And you know what I found and what my team said, which this is just feedback for me, was I was a little bit like stiff. I wasn't myself. I was a little bit, and maybe I am very boring and robotic. I probably am, but I felt like there's all these lights and it's serious and I've come here and I need to be professional. But, you know, even just toward the end of the workshop, getting more comfortable saying the same thing over and over and putting my own energy and fusion into it. Yeah. So this is something that's really marvelous about the experience I had to work with you apparently earlier this year, not 45 years ago, whenever that was. And, you know, I realized I didn't need to perform. I was able to just show up. And having someone on the other end of this screen or camera asking these questions and provoking it, or even setting us, you did something kind of brilliant where you put us into groups and said, okay, explain to these two what you do and why. So we'd sit at a table and it's all staged with a camera in front of us and microphones, but giving us all a chance to talk about what we do. It made it very fluent, it made it very comfortable. And I realized I wasn't like, hi, I'm Heather Harris. I founded Spark and I endorse this message. You know, it made me just feel more like myself. And so after that repetitive practice and doing it 100 different ways, it really did help. And so I see that there's a lot of power in doing this on a workshop. And if someone's listening to this and they're like, well, I can't pull that off, or I don't know if my brand is big enough for that. Just this exercise that you're talking about and this way of speaking has so much impact in delivering those messages, which I think is great. And then you mentioned, you know, thank you for this shameless plug, what we do at Spark. You know, how are people going to be able to use the content when they work with you? Or how should someone be using their video content? What are some of the different avenues and channels you see people being most productive with their work?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question, but I just want to piggyback on what you shared about the process. I think what we did was the first of its kind. I mean, I don't know anybody else that, you know, tried to pull off what we pulled off. And basically what we did was put 8 higher level public speakers and coaches and consultants or, you know, personal brands on 6 different sets, you know, with professional teams through a 2-day window, worked real hard to pull out your core messaging. And just, you know, so, you know, like we learned a ton from that as well. And we've refined the process. With that said, we did loosen up, you know, over time. And what I've known now, 6 months later, is some of the benefits were the hard content that I delivered to people, boatload of content to people.
Right.
But the benefits have far exceeded just that. You know, there was the benefits of being in a group of other higher level public speakers and idea trading. And, you know, wasn't really on the top of my mind. I was just like, this is going to be great, but, you know, you're going to get a lot of content. There was also the benefit of you leaving with that kind of clarity. And even Nikki Lee and I talked about this. Like, wow, even though I just went through this like Navy SEAL level video content workshop, because it was quite intense. You know, it was a very intense 2 days.
I held a plank for 5 minutes straight while you filmed and asked me questions, and then you put weights on my back. I remember that.
Yes.
Sleep deprived, all of it.
Yes, exactly. So ring the bell if you can't take it anymore, Heather. So like, you know, all those things, but afterwards, like the message clarity that literally every person that was there called me and like, know so much more about the way I want to deliver now, how I was, even if they felt they missed the mark at Elevate, which can happen when you're on the spot, you know what I mean? So I just say all that to say that was amazing, and that was awesome.
We're going to not get anywhere because we're going to keep interrupting each other because we like this idea so much, but this is actually something I really want to support that you're saying. I recently was in San Diego with a friend of mine and client, and it should have texted you when it happened. I met a couple of different people from different industries. It had nothing to do with hair, but it was a big event that I attended with her. And people would say, so what do you do? Or tell me about your business. Or this friend would introduce me and say, this is what she does. And people would go, tell me more. And do you know what I did? It was like all those years ago of that Navy SEAL level training came back in that second and rushed into my mind. And I said, I help non-traditional CEOs become efficient AF, learn how to delegate, increase their margins, have more fun. Whatever the heck I did. I said like my one sentence thing. And I was like, as soon as I got done, I was like, hey, I think this is from Chris brainwashing me all those months ago, asking me the questions over and over, going through the process. But when I meet people or they ask, what do you do? Or people, I've got that snapshot chance to like hook somebody. And it was really funny. One woman stopped and goes, you really have that dialed in. It was like, really succinct, really like she like admired how I delivered it. And it wasn't routine. It wasn't like robotic. It was just came right off my tongue. And I thought that happened because I subjected myself to boot camp torture.
Yeah.
It was great. It was actually super fun.
Well, you know, back when we were younger and you're younger than me. So, you know, an elevator pitch in the 80s, and I hate the term and I hated the idea of it until I started realizing like when I would film people, you know, and I would ask them, what do you do? Then I'd have to go back and make all of these complex edits to make it sound like it was all one sentence and put it together. And then it was like, we got to narrow this down where they can actually spit this out in a way that the person on the other side is going to understand it very quickly. And it ends up being helpful if you're with a client in a chair, if you're at the front desk answering a phone, if you're you know, scripts are the things that we say when our brain is dead, right? It's like I can pull out a script and the person on the other, you know, side gets what I'm trying to say. Even better if it's something that you're interested in about driving towards, because now you're going to put your personality into it, you know? So it's not about like learning something. Yeah.
The ideal is that the script gives you the platform to be succinct. You know, brevity is brilliance. And that tells you I am not a brilliant person because Reader's Digest done fired me 100 years ago because I don't know how to condense anything. But I know that if I could master the art of brevity and communication, I could take over the world, Chris. And that one time that lady asked me what I do at that event, a couple people in a row, and I was like, I got it dialed in to a one sentence answer that was really impactful and covered the bases, no edits necessary, and able to impart your own personality. And it is what happens when you have practice and that fluency.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. Cool. I had a boss one time, and he was a Division I college level baseball player before he went out. And he was a big hunk of a man, right? And so I was like, Cody, like what was the difference between you and a pro? And he said, only consistency. He's like, you know, some days he's like, you know, towards the end, I was a little bit bored with it. And college, you know, I kind of fell out of love with baseball. And, you know, I could hit at just as good, just as far, just as hard. I could, you know, all those things as somebody that went to the pros. I just didn't do it every day. So consistency is really, you know, the key. Yesterday I was on with Ryan, and, you know, Ryan Whedon, like arguably is one of the best users of video in the hair salon industry. I mean, he was, you know, he grew Mob to be an outstandingly successful brand when nobody would hire him on on their education teams, right? That was how he got into doing that. He's like, I don't want to like start at the bottom. I want to like be on stage. That's what I want to do.
Nice.
And, you know, while videos will probably be more successful than any video that I ever shoot for myself, the fact is he had the same exact answer when that question got asked, like just consistency. And one of the people on said, you know, I've been seeing your videos, Ryan, for 2 years before I decided to purchase Masters of Balayage, like the course. So, you know, just if you can do something consistent, no matter what it is, video works the same exact way.
Cool. That's a really important takeaway. Just keep showing up and keep doing it. I love that. And people can use this content that they either produce on their own or when working with you, they can use on their websites, email funnels, ad campaigns, any social media marketing, and then paid ads and things like that. Another thing that I really like that I didn't even begin to tap into is we can use it with new client onboarding. In fact, after you and I wrap, I'm going to be filming with my team to do some welcome memos to new clients, some congratulations on 1 year's working with us and different things like that, where we can start to get more fluent on camera. And then I can promote brand, not only just someone who wants to do work with my brand, but also start to reinforce that relationship, acknowledge them, and build more community using this stuff. So there's a lot of ways this can be used. And, you know, you mentioned my team at Spark. will help people edit. I'm going to tell you right now.
Well, that's what I want. Yeah, that was your next question, and let me talk for you because
but also, I don't watch it. I was just going to tell you. You said most of us kind of get informative because we're going to go back and watch it, and I'm like that. I don't know if I'll ever even watch or listen to one of my podcasts ever after I record it.
I totally get that. Trust me, I did hundreds of podcasts a few years ago, and I edited all of them. And once I put them out, I was like, I don't want to hear a word.
I don't want to see my face again.
But I want to talk about you for a second. Yeah. Because, there's filming and editing something, which is a huge pain in the ass to do, which is why I do it. And then there's the distribution side, also a huge pain in the ass to do. And that's what you do. And, I got real clear because when we met, I was managing a good friend of mine and yours, social, because I was filming a lot of his videos, and I was like, look, let me just go ahead and handle this because his social media person wasn't doing a good job. And I took it on for about a year, and I realized a couple of things, one, how much work it is, and two, that I was never that wasn't going to be my core competency. It's not, I don't have an interest in that. And we met, and he introduced me to you. And what your team has done, to help all of the ideas, Jay brings a lot of ideas to the table, and, he's interested in things, but he doesn't want to be the one to push the buttons. And so he's been really in love with the fact that you can take this big kind of bank of content. I mean, I had so much video of Jay. It was just like overwhelming to look at. And, I sent that to your team, and I don't, in the long term, I mean, they could probably get 5 years of content from what,
amazing.
He has.
Just put you out of work.
Yeah, well, fine, because, there's plenty of more fish that I want to save. My mission is to help 10,000 coaches, consultants, speakers, or, entrepreneurs to get their messaging out and amplify it using video. So I'm happy to pass that on because I want to help a lot of people because I think there are inspiring people out there. But what you guys are doing is really great. And I know Lucy is in somewhere in the room with you. And I hear a ton of accolades about, how she leads the team really well. And, even Angela was talking about how she was so impressed, with the conversations that she got to have with Lucy. Yeah. So,
Lucy is incredible.
if you don't want to do like any of it, then you need video. Not everybody should be on video. Not every business needs it.
You've got a face for radio. Stick to behind the camera. Okay, that's a really smart way of saying that, Chris.
What I mean is like, truthfully, like there are a million ways to tell your story, but if you feel like video is one of them that you want to do, if you feel like video is one of them, then get clear, make it good. And then if you're like, I also don't want to distribute this, well, hopefully you've grown a business around you where, you can fund, and it makes sense in the beginning to make an investment on distribution and, knowing that that's supposed to turn into an ROI.
Right.
So, that's my plug for you guys. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. Oh, Bad Hair Alliance, they're super happy with you, so.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah. I've loved being able to see. Now I'm going to just, the disclaimer is people be like, you're going to do this for me? I'm like, whoa, kitten. I'm worse at technology than anybody I know. I don't even have Instagram or social media on my phone. However, I know what I suck at and I find the right people to help and I solve for that. Kind of like you like to help solve for this challenge that people have of the concern or the hesitation to show up on camera. So I'm so grateful to my entire team at Spark. And you mentioned Lucy, who deserves more praise than she ever gets for what she executes, and everybody on my team internally who works behind the scenes tirelessly to make the lives of creative, non-traditional CEOs be more efficient with bigger margins and more fun. Oh, did you recognize that one-liner? Anyway, but I love doing that, and I love being able to be a part of that, bringing the work forward. And I don't delegate this stuff because I am so important and I make so much money. That's not why I started. I started delegating it because I just didn't do it. It was not getting done.
Busy.
So I was going to have, volumes of content that never got produced. So if someone's finding themselves in that position, please obviously reach out to Spark, and we're happy to help or even talk about how to start to delegate and make sense of wading through all that. In the meantime, if people listening to this want to work with you, if they're like, hey, I need to show up on camera and I don't know how, you have workshops that you're doing and ways that people can work with you. Will you please share that? And this will absolutely be included in the show notes. For those of you listening who want to feel confident, clear, and well put together on camera with a message that people can understand and buy into. Coaches, consultants, and speakers are the target audience, but anybody who's listening to that, who falls in that category, tell us how they can show up, how they can show up better online by working with you in a workshop, where they can find you and how they can reach out to you.
So the link, I will send you links for the Elevate Sell page, I'm calling it. That's terrible, but it's your information page. And you can book a 15-minute discovery call with me. Elevate is it's a video. And so, it's a luxury item ticket price. But you get, an overwhelmingly large package of content for what we do, and we do it fast. So that's happening September.
And it's fun, Chris.
It's super fun. Yeah.
Like the people I met, just the networking and the enjoyment of having the association with those people for that weekend, frankly, it was like going to summer camp. So we made it sound awful like booth camp, but that was a joke. So it's in September.
Yeah, it's in September. We're actually going to have it at the Embassy Suites. When you and I were together, it was at a different place, but the Embassy Suites has some rooms that are going to be, just very nice to shoot in. It'll be great for the attendees.
Part of the country.
And it's Sarasota, Florida. It's September 6th and 7th. And if it's something you're interested in, if you need help with your messaging, click that link, book a discovery call, 15 minutes. We'll know quickly, if you're a candidate for Elevate or not. And if not, I'll send you away with some homework. So I'll make sure that no matter what on that call, you'll get some value. So you can, get your brand and your messaging ready, so you can create a lot in a really short period of time. It's I wanted to do it in September because you could very easily have content that lasts you until next March or April by coming to that September workshop. And that's why I wanted to do it then, because, you'll take care of your holiday season. You'll take care of all that stuff, and we'll make sure that you're ready and prepared for that message. So book a discovery call. I'd love to chat with anybody that's interested and feels like this is for them.
Thank you. And Chris, that's why we're airing this in advance of that date, just so people can get a chance to work with you. And if you're listening to this after the fact, like a lot of people do in archives, just know that these are ongoing workshops that Chris has presented, likely doing a few a year. And I'll tell you, when I went to Sarasota, I had never been there. A lot of times, thanks to my assistant, I just show up to the airport, look at I'm like, oh, I've got a boarding pass, I need to go, and I'm in and signed in and my hotel's booked. Well, no one told me how dang cute Sarasota was. I wish someone had warned me that I'd want to be there a few extra days. It's darling. The food scene is great. I mean, it's a little place to be and visit. So I would have stayed longer had I known, if I'm being honest with you. So I'm just giving anybody listening fair warning. Then you're going to meet people that you like and want to hang out with, which I am in touch with and have collaborated with multiple people that I met from that workshop that I've really enjoyed sustained professional collaboration with. And so there was so much value beyond just what I got to film and practicing my messaging. So I can vouch to that. And I will tell you, this whole thing started off because of an intro of a mutual friend who said, hey, you should talk to this guy. Always goes, and fine, I'll talk to your friend. And this setup turned out to be a match made in heaven. Our initial discovery call, I was like, I really like what this guy has to say. You're asking really good questions that are getting that creative juice flowing on how to answer who we are and what we do and who we take care of, the problems we solve. And that consultation, that 15-minute call with you, which was very generous.
I think we went a little longer.
I was going to say, as we might be inclined to do over here,
we went a little longer. Yeah.
However, I got so much value out of that alone that if I was disciplined and had a selfie camera and a tripod and actually was organized enough to do it, I mean, you would have given me enough to really kickstart. So it's very, very much worth your time to at least get the conversation going with Chris.
Yeah.
You will be glad you talked to him, if nothing else, just because he's a cool guy.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, thank you for being on today and for sharing some of your ideas on how we can show up more authentically, creating magic and connection with our audience and the people that we're trying to reach through our messaging through video. Thank you so much for your time today, Chris. And I'm so excited to hear how this follow-up workshop goes in September.